to repeat the man wanted for questioning in the bombing Saturday in New York City and Seaside Park, New Jersey, which is a shore town in New Jersey, has been arrested. He is in custody this morning. His name is Ahmed Khan Rahami. He is a naturalized U.S. citizen from Afghanistan. He was arrested in a shootout this morning in Linden, New Jersey. That is a town that is right next to Elizabeth, New Jersey, where he is from. The other interesting thing that President Obama said was that no connection has been found between the bombings and the knife attacks yesterday at a Minnesota mall. That Minnesota mall, of course, ISIS has claimed responsibility for that particular attack. Jeff Pegues is here with us. You heard the president. He praised law enforcement. They've acted quickly. Now this man is in custody.
Well, as you know, they sent out this alert via cell phones and put out this picture of this man that they wanted about 3 hours ago, and now he's in custody. So yes, they've been very quick to round him up and put him in custody. Now we're hearing that there may have been a tip involved here from someone who perhaps may have seen this wanted poster out there, but it may have been a tip that led to his arrest.
I think the next big question that many people have is what else is out there? More bombs? Is he connected to a larger terror cell in Elizabeth, New Jersey?
Well, and that's a very good point. I think it was notable how the president talked about the Minnesota attack where 9 people were stabbed in that mall there, and these incidents in New Jersey and in New York City. Now, he's saying there's no connection between the Minnesota attack and New York and New Jersey. Why is that important? Because the question is there a larger conspiracy at play here, or was it just a coincidence? We know that in the past, ISIS has used its social media arm to drum up attacks like this, whether inspired or directed, encouraging people to pick targets and go and attack. So the question is, did they send out some sort of information encouraging people to carry out attacks on that day? That is a question that is still sort of unresolved at this point.
We have the first pictures from that arrest that just happened moments ago, and you can see the suspect there laying on the ground. It appears his shirt is pulled up, his hands behind his back. What will law enforcement do now to figure out whether there are more people involved?
They got to see who he's been in contact with. Was there someone out there who is helping him or was helping him? They got to get those cell phones, they got to get the computers, and they have to scrub those things looking for as much information as possible. They want to know who he was talking to in the weeks and days and really hours leading up to these events.
Right, how he became radicalized. Was he self-radicalized? Was he part of a larger group? All of those important things. Let me also ask you, in terms of the different types of these bombs that were used, the pipe bomb in New Jersey, the pressure cookers here in Manhattan, in the Chelsea neighborhood, what did investigators think was interesting about those devices?
Well, everything about them. When you're starting from scratch with an explosion that you see in the video there, everything about those devices and what was left of them is important to an investigator. They want to see if there are any fingerprints there. They look at the components to see if they can trace where these components were purchased from, because if they can do that, well, then you have a store to go to, and then you can look at the store's surveillance camera. So, right, one thing leads to the next clue that can help ultimately catch up to someone like this.
What are we hearing from all of the law enforcement officials this morning about how they found him? Fingerprints, particular things in the devices?
Well, it usually comes down to fingerprints in these cases, but as I've said before, and you know this, there is this network of cameras everywhere, certainly in this city, but really across the East Coast. And so you look at the surveillance images that we've seen from the explosion, you look at the surveillance video from stores nearby, you canvass neighborhoods. So all of these things help investigators get the information they need to provide the public with a picture. And then that old theory of if you see something, say something comes into play, where they need the public's help to get as much information as possible as they race to track this person down. Just in case, you know, they don't know whether he was planning something else. And so they got to race against the clock to get somebody in custody. And you see they've done that now.
Governor Cuomo saying this morning on CBS this morning that there were certain commonalities among the bombs that had led them to sort of link all of them together. What about these 5 men who were arrested late last night just around New York City?
Well, those are people who are being questioned right now, but no charges in that case. But that's something that we certainly need to follow. One other interesting thing about the president's statement there, did you notice how he talked about getting the facts straight? I don't think that was necessarily a message for the media because there have been some mixed messages there from public officials about the status of the investigation.
In fact, the mayor of New York City wouldn't say it was terrorism. He differed from the governor of New Jersey and New York, who said it was terrorism. We also heard the governor New York first say it wasn't clear there was an international connection, and then this morning saying it does look like there might be some foreign ties. So, as always, the story evolves.
Yeah, and that's a real muddled picture, and you'll notice that you didn't see investigators making those kinds of statements. That sort of stands out, and so there was a message there from the president to, maybe he was calling out the media perhaps, but also to public officials.
Yeah, I think there's a lesson here too, which is that New York City and many of these cities have all hands on deck and they have cameras everywhere. They can catch it pretty quickly.
Well, as you know, after 9/11, this is a city that has evolved in its law enforcement tactics in many other ways, and that was at play here as well.
And what about New Jersey?
Well, I think New Jersey, perhaps for some folks there, this is a wake-up call. But, New Jersey, this tri-state area, this area was affected deeply by 9/11. And so there has been this collective effort to not only enforce law enforcement technology and resources, but just to instill in the public more vigilance. 9/11, 15 years later, it still hurts here. And you see it in the faces and the eyes of the residents and also the police officers.
Well, now we know that the suspect is now in custody, will be questioned by officials as they search to see whether he is part of a larger terror group. President Obama speaking moments ago, trying to reassure the public that law enforcement on the state, local, and federal level are all working together to try and keep America safe. He cautioned, as Jeff just noted, not to jump to conclusions about whether there are foreign connections. But we will have much more here on CBS. Just to repeat, Ahmed Khan Rahami, a naturalized U.S. citizen from Afghanistan, arrested in Linden, New Jersey. There will be much more ahead here on CBS and on your local news and on our 24-hour streaming news service, CBSN. And we will have extensive coverage on the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley. I'm Norah O'Donnell, CBS News, New York.